All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Gonna be touching on the top prop bets for both Underdog and PrizePicks. Let's go ahead and get into it. So looking at the first game, we got Washington versus the Raptors. It's about a 7-point spread. Decently high-scoring game, though, about 238.8, maybe 239, but definitely going to be a higher-scoring game. Looking at the injury report, both teams are going to be good to go. Now, Washington is playing on the back end of a back-to-back. Wagner went off against the Wizards last night. I'm wondering who we'd be looking at to see go off for the Raptors. And for me, my initial thought is that we probably want to be looking at Scotty Barnes tonight, assuming that the game stays close enough for long enough. Scotty Barnes is someone that has been playing much better as of recently. You know, he had a little bit of a mid-season lull, but has been playing much better as of recently. And given the matchup, this is a spot where I think we should be looking at Scotty Barnes as a whole. And so, you know, let's go ahead and pull it up by the team to see if we're getting any good prop bets for Scotty Barnes. That would be favorable. 3-pointers made 1.5. We can see potentially could be betting the over there. I'm perfectly fine with that. But we're going to see points, rebounds, and assists at 39. Okay, very interesting here. Definitely a better bet on Underdog. By all means, guys, if you're playing on Underdog, place that bet there. It's slightly better. We can see the average sportsbook line gives it about a 53% chance for him to get over 39.67. So some of the lines are valuing him at 39. Some of them are valuing him at 38.5. All in all, I think given the matchup, I think we can expect him to go off. This is a smash spot. He should be able to crush. From there, it does become more difficult. Like if you want to stack this game, you can, simply because Washington is obviously not the best team, especially defense. So like Siakam, if you want to do points and rebounds, you could. Again, a better bet there on Underdog. We can see Dennis Schroeder there for his points and rebounds, 15.5. Again, like if we're trying to get to some of those prop bets, we're probably just trying to get to them to game stack. It is a smash matchup. He should be able to crush in this matchup. So all in all, I don't mind the prop bets that we were getting here. I'm actually curious, had these teams met earlier on the season? They did once. Dennis didn't do all too well, 1 for 12. That's not something you would expect again. I think we can just write that off as a poor night shooting. So all in all, yeah, probably just looking at Scotty Barnes right now. Like Jakob Poeltl, a little bit too much minutes dependent. Probably really can't count on that tonight. And then OG Anunoby, we are seeing that the under 4.5 rebounds is currently like the best EV bet that we are currently getting. Let's just take a peek at that. I don't want to ignore that. We can see on the season averages 3.9, and so to have it at 4, that does seem to be a little bit too high. Let's see what he did in the first game against them. Okay, actually wasn't active against them, so definitely an interesting spot there. So now we go ahead and move on, and we'll get into Washington here, seeing if we're getting any good prop bets for them. Daniel Gafford, steals, it seems to always be one that's kind of a decent bet. I don't know if we need to be targeting that, though. We know the theme with Washington by now, right, guys? So Washington, it's whether or not they keep the game close. I've mentioned this a bunch now. To me, if I'm running out of game stack, let's say we wanted to do Dennis over points and assist or whatever it was. We wanted to do Scotty Barnes over points, rebounds, and assists, and Pascal Siakam over points and rebounds. If you felt like those were good prop bets, then I don't mind the idea of running out Tyus Jones for over points, rebounds, and assists, and also Daniel Gafford over points, rebounds, and assists, for the simple reason that it's too tough and difficult to figure out when Washington is going to keep a game close. It is, or for how long they're going to keep the game close enough. Seemingly, though, when they do keep it close enough for long enough, aka they're still getting their 30-plus minutes, it's going to be because Tyus Jones is having a good game. It's also going to be because someone like Daniel Gafford is having a good game. And so if we can get those guys getting 30 minutes, that is crucial. And so really looking at it, I don't mind the idea of running out Daniel Gafford for over 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I don't love the fact that the data doesn't like Tyus Jones for over points, rebounds, and assists. A better bet there would be points and assists. So again, if you're trying to run out a game stack here, the simple approach. So yeah, just looking at a potential slip that you could run out there, guys. It would just be for this game, a game stack. Again, I really like Scotty Barnes and I really like Pascal Siakam. These are going to be better bets though on Underdog. Okay, so if you're someone that plays on both sides, much better bet there. Like there's no need to force it on PrizePicks if you play on Underdog. And then again, I don't mind the idea of kind of game stacking with Washington, knowing that if Tyus Jones and Daniel Gafford are playing well, the game will stay close enough and then they'll get 30 minutes. It's a decent game stack. Does it hit all the time? No. Does it hit 50% of the time? Sure. And if it's hitting 50% of the time, we're happy to take that. So now let's go ahead and move on into the next game here. We got the Sixers versus the Magic, a 2-point spread. The Magic are coming in off of the back end of a back-to-back. The point spread is about 227.5. Looking at the Magic, we got to see who's going to be active. Again, they're coming in off of the back end of a back-to-back. To me, like Jalen Suggs is someone that could, you know, potentially sit. He played a decent amount of minutes, was injured or was on the injury report yesterday, ended up playing. You know, if he sits, then we're looking at Cole Anthony again. Joe Ingles, game time decision. Again, Tough to say whether he sat out yesterday because it was the front end of back-to-back or because he's truly too injured to play. Jonathan Isaac, I do expect to play. Gary Harris, again, we don't know what to expect. So the Magic, they're going to be more difficult to figure out. I don't know if we need to target anyone there. I will say Wagner and Ben Charo, I'm okay with them. Obviously, they're not going to be as good of plays today. Looking at the Sixers, we know that Batum and Embiid are out. That is huge. To me, we're getting a big edge on one of the players in this game. And let's go ahead and start with that. So to me, the lines that we're getting on Melton are just simply too low, just regardless of what they are. Points and assists at 17. I'm perfectly happy to bet the over there. This started out at 16.5. To me, I don't like to use the lock word because obviously things can happen. Like I had Maxey at, I don't know, whatever, 7 less points, rebounds, and assists than what his line ended up being on Christmas because Embiid was out. I'm like, that should be a lock, but obviously it had terrible night shooting, and so it didn't hit. You know, that stuff happens in the NBA. So I never like to use that lock word, but Melton points and assists, or really points, rebounds, and assists, or even potentially fantasy score should all be good prop bets. And so when we're looking at Melton, it's really just going to be figuring out which props you guys want to go in on. To me, I probably will go in on points, rebounds, and assists the most right now, depending on what the fantasy score line comes out to be. And if you guys are curious as to why, it's going to be the minutes. We look at it, guys. He's been someone that when the team is fully healthy, he hasn't been closing out games. And so with Embiid out and with Batum out, that is huge as well. I expect him to close out the game like he did last game against Miami. And because of that, we saw him get 17 shot attempts up. Again, that is not surprising. That is something we have seen each and every time we have had this situation. So to me, that is something we do want to be paying attention to tonight. And when you look at like the per 36 production with those two off the court, Melton averages about 18.7 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.2 assists. So it definitely gets a massive bump. And we saw last game that they didn't really account for that. Now, was this a better game than you would expect? Fantasy score-wise, for sure, because he had 1 block and 4 steals. That's not going to happen again. He does average about 2 assists or 2 steals per 36 with Embiid and with Batum off the court. So there is something to that. Again, it makes sense why he had a good game. From there, it is a little bit more difficult. Like the one thing I want to point out is the reason why, or a potential reason as to why Melton got some more run, is because Paul Reed got into foul trouble basically instantly in that game. And so with that, he is a player that does get the most minutes with Embiid and Batum off the court, averages about 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2.8 assists, also a block and a steal per 36. The question is, will he ever get 36 minutes? Probably not. Probably going to get closer to 25 minutes. Again, he is someone that is a point per minute producer, but at the same time does get into foul trouble. So we saw actually Mo Bamba get 25 minutes in that game, played really well. And so it might not even matter who the big is, just a matter of them being productive. Like one of those two are going to be productive. All in all, though, the 3 players that we want to be in on the most, it's going to be Harris, it's going to be Maxey, and it's going to be Melton, maybe even Kelly Oubre. And I do think it's worthwhile to touch on that. So let's see the next prop bets that we are getting. Maybe Kelly Oubre for over 16.5 points, or also Tobias Harris for over his points at 20.5. Let's just touch on both of those. So Tobias Harris obviously had a pretty good game last game, played in 42 minutes, the previous game 38 minutes. That's the biggest thing with Harris as well, is that when games are close, he is going to be someone that gets minutes. And so with this game looking like it's going to stay close, he is someone I think we can count on. You look at his per 36 production, guys, averages 20.2 points per 36. Again, he is someone that typically gets a little bit more run than that in close games, averages 7.4 rebounds, averages 3.4 assists. So not the biggest bump as a whole, but again, a little bit more usage. His usage goes up actually 5%. And so I think it's just a matter of him making some more buckets. Really only gets about 3 more shot attempts up per 36, but is averaging, about 3 more points per 36. So again, looking at the points here at 20.5, I would say that that's correct. At the same time, I do get why we are getting that line, simply because this game is projected to stay close. And if it does stay close, he is someone that should get, maybe another bucket in there. From there, we are seeing Kelly Oubre Jr. as a good prop bet as well for over points at 16.5. Now, my biggest question with someone like Kelly Oubre last game was how many minutes would he get? Okay, we just didn't know. He was coming in off of an injury. We hadn't seen him get 30 plus minutes just yet. No, he instantly came in and played 40 minutes in that game. Now, I'm wondering how much of that was due to him just shooting the basketball well. They just rode the hot hand. I would say that's partially true, but also it makes sense. Like, they're going to run out Maxey, Melton, Oubre, Harris, and then one of the bigs. Like, that is going to be their 5 tonight with, again, Batum and also Embiid off the court. So Kelly Oubre getting 36 minutes in this game would not be shocking. We saw that actually happen at the beginning of the season where he was averaging around 30 plus minutes in those games. And so I think that's going to be more of the expectation is around 30 minutes in this game. I do think he played a little bit extra minutes in that game simply because he was shooting the basketball well. But he is someone that does average 3.9 more points per 36. So again, looking at that line that we're getting at 16.5, that should already tell us that we are feeling pretty good about betting that over, okay, for the points. After that, if you want to do rebounds as well, he does. There's not much there. If you're betting on Kelly Oubre, you're betting on him to score more points because he averages about 4.4 more points or shot attempts per 36, has a 7% bump in his usage rate. So for what it's worth, guys, Melton has a 9% bump in usage, and then Maxey is the biggest one in terms of a usage bump, 9% bump in usage. Now, Maxey's coming in off of a terrible night shooting. Again, 4 for 20, 1 for 8, and really he didn't make any buckets until like the last few minutes of that game. Now, he basically did not leave the court, okay? So I do think that there's something there. His per 36 production, guys, he averages 9.5 more points per 36. Okay, the assists actually go down slightly. Kind of makes sense. You take Embiid out, a little bit less assists there. But all in all, the points prop that we're getting on him is probably someone that we should be looking at. So let's see what we're getting from Melton. 4 points. Turnovers is not terrible actually as well. Actually, turnovers. No, never mind. He only averages 1.1 turnovers per 36 with Embiid off the court. So yeah, we don't need to touch that one. But yeah, looking at points, I think that's the one we want to go with. 29.5, a little bit too low. He averages 32 real life points per 36 with Embiid and Batum off the court. He's going to get those shot attempts up, averages 23 shot attempts. And just the simple fact that he's coming in off of a poor night shooting, I tend to like that a little bit more. We can see he's averaging about 10 3-ball attempts as well. That to me is huge. Again, had a terrible night shooting. Don't expect that to occur again. That can happen against Miami. We see that time and time again. Orlando not as, well, I shouldn't say that. Orlando is a difficult matchup as well, but all in all, I expect him to be able to take advantage of that match. Now, obviously, I spent a lot of time on Philly because I do think it's a worthwhile investment of your guys' time to touch on all that stuff. But let's go ahead and move on into Orlando. For Orlando, to me, all the props that we are getting on them are a little bit too thin, especially because, a lot of the players did have good games last night against Washington, as you would expect. But now, to me, it's very difficult to really trust any of them. Wagner, it felt good to hit. I do want to mention, someone in the comments was like, why is the data high on Wagner tonight? He's only hit this total 4 out of the past 25 times for whichever the line was, which is a fair question. I do want to point out that when people are looking at stuff like that, I don't know if there's a terminology for it, but there's definitely some sort of game log bias. Like if that truly mattered as much as it did, don't you think Vegas would be like changing lines because of that? No, matchups matter, projected minutes matter, and whatnot. So there's always a reason why we're getting that line. So I would say like the last thing you should look at is the game logs of like a player producing over that expected line. Like this right here, this is the last thing I like to look at. It just is. I never like looking at that. And honestly, I hate when the guy's straight green for 5 straight slates or straight red for 5 straight slates, because then obviously with that line that we have, it's there for a reason. It's eventually going to come back. I think that's a talking point that comes out about once a month, and I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, all in all, I don't think we're getting any good lines for Orlando. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game here. We got the Bucks versus the next four. Well, just jumped about 4.5 point spread. 240 is going to be the over and under. So kind of a fun game. The Nets are coming in off of the back end of a back-to-back. I don't know if we're going to get any different lines there. They continue to be difficult to predict. Looking at the Bucks, Giannis is currently at game time. Obviously, if Giannis sits, we're looking at Middleton, we're looking at Brook, we're looking at Damian Lillard to all get a big bump in their usage. And what's interesting about Giannis is the only reason why he's projected to sit is simply due to rest. Injury management is pretty much it. So we have no idea whether or not he's going to sit or not. Tough to say for sure. Now, if he plays, obviously we like him. Last game against Brooklyn did have a fantastic game, 36 points, 12 rebounds, only 3 assists, but had himself a very good game. Tough to really prepare for this spot because to me, it truly does seem to be like a 50-50. If Giannis does sit, again, let's prepare for that. It is difficult, guys. We're not getting the other lines. Again, some of the comments have been saying, I wish you could point out the props instead of like talking about them. I'm like, I kind of have to talk about them because we don't have the prop lines. That's the whole point of it. So again, I'm going to go through the per 36 production with Giannis off the court, maybe who we could be looking at, who benefits the most with Giannis off the court. So yes, with Giannis off the court, the players that get the most minutes are actually Brook, Bobby, it makes sense, Bobby Portis, Lillard, Malik Beasley, Pat Connaughton, then Chris Middleton, not as much of a minutes bump because, well, his minutes were limited at the start of the season. But in terms of who gets like the biggest bump in general in usage, 14.6% for Chris Middleton. Now, Chris Middleton does still have a little bit of a minutes limit, but he's playing about 33 minutes. And I think that's something we could expect to happen again if Giannis is out. He would get about 9.6 more shot attempts up as well per 36 with Giannis off the court, averaging about 7.5 more points as well. So in this high-scoring game, his prop line for points should be at least at 20 if Giannis is off the court. It could be a little bit higher given the game total. Fantasy score-wise, Chris Middleton averages 45 points per 36. Again, we're probably looking at only 33 minutes. From there, I do want to mention Damian Lillard because he also gets a big bump in usage, about a 13% bump in usage. He averages 9.1 more points per 36, 1.4 more rebounds, 1 assist more. Okay, and actually averages about 2 more turnovers per 36. So looking at Damian Lillard, guys, he would average 4 turnovers per 36. So maybe we're getting like 2.5 turnovers for him. I would actually be fine betting the over there, especially against Brooklyn, who can make opponents susceptible to some turnovers. But overall, Damian Lillard's per 36 production is 33.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, 7.8 assists. So really the biggest bump would be in the points. And so that would be something we would need to pay attention to. I do need to talk about Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis as well. So Brook Lopez does average only about 0.7 more rebounds. So not too much, but that could be the difference between, let's say if the line's at 4.5 rebounds. If we wanted to bet it at the over to get to 5, that could be a big difference maker. The biggest thing for Brook Lopez is he averages about 3.3 more shot attempts. And so with that, he averages about 3 more points per 36. So about 16 points. So again, someone we could be looking at there. And then lastly, Bobby Portis as well. Bobby Portis does get a little bit more run with Giannis off the court. His per 36 production is 19.5 points, 11.9 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. Now, he's not going to get 36 minutes. I can tell you that much right now, but he probably would get close to around 30-ish minutes if Giannis is off the court, and then he'd probably be someone that we are looking at then. Now we go ahead and get into Brooklyn. We are actually getting some good props for them. For Giannis, for whatever it's worth, guys, I don't want to bet on any of these prop lines for him right now. I feel like those are all correct. So let's go ahead and move on into Brooklyn. And so looking at Brooklyn, guys, I do want to point out that if Giannis is out, that is going to help the production for probably Nick Claxton a little bit around the rim, just because you're taking one less rim protector out. I think that's a big thing. And really, in general, I think that kind of helps the Nets out a lot in terms of scoring because, again, you're taking out one of the best defenders in the league, one of the best rim protectors in the league out, and that's just going to lead to a couple easier buckets here and there. Now, we can see right now for Brooklyn, we're not getting any good prop lines, and I would probably agree. Like, the issue with Brooklyn is that production is so randomly spread out, and it's tough to say as to why. Like, Cam Thomas started the game, I don't know, 5 for 6 shot attempts wise, and then he went like 10 minutes without getting another shot up. It is just strange, you know. The only player that we can really bank on having a good game has been Nick Claxton, and we're currently not getting any prop bets for him. But again, like Nick Claxton, if we can get 30 or so minutes out of him, he'd be someone that I think we could trust to go off. Good matchup if Giannis is out. Still not the best, though. Brook is a good defender. And so really with that, I'm not seeing any good lines that we want to go in on. Let's see Mikal Bridges 3 balls. Yeah, he's not shooting enough threes to really trust that as well. So yeah, to me, right now this game is actually a little bit of a stay away. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. The Suns versus Rockets, 2.8 is going to be the spread. Looking at the over, about 225 or so. Looking at the injuries for this team, for the Suns, Josh Okogie, currently a game time decision. If he's out, we're still looking at Grayson Allen getting some heavy minutes. And then Yusuf Nurk, he sat out in the last game. We got to see if he's going to sit out in this game. The Rockets, they're going to be good to go. Tari Eason was someone that I was wondering would sit last game. He did not. He ended up having a very good game. It is the back end of back-to-back. I guess it wouldn't be too shocking to see him randomly sit in this game, just simply because he was questionable last game. But let's go and take a peek at the props that we are getting for this team. Let's start out actually with Phoenix here. So looking at Phoenix, yeah, Yusuf Nurk, tough to say what we would want to do. Him being out or active really doesn't change much in terms of Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. Really not anything for Grayson Allen as well. And we can see right now the prop lines that we're getting on them, I would say are all correct. I don't want to touch these. These are all correct right now for both Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. In terms of Yusuf Nurk, maybe points and assists there at 15.5. But again, not worthwhile to spend time on it. So let's go ahead and move on into the Houston Rockets. A player that I wanted to be on a little bit yesterday was Jabari Smith Jr. simply because Tari Eason was looking like he could sit. And if he was going to sit, that would just mean a lot more production to go to Jabari Smith. That did not happen. And actually, Jabari Smith had a pretty bad game in terms of, prop lines, in terms of like what we'd want to be looking at. That Tari Eason, though, however, in 25 minutes had himself a very good game. And I just want to point out that is a big mover for Jabari Smith. Like if Tari Eason is ever out and Jabari Smith's lines have not changed, that is something that's going to be worthwhile. Looking at this matchup, I will say I don't mind Fred VanVleet today, just in a pretty good matchup against the Phoenix Suns. I would imagine he's going to get around 20 shot attempts up or so, and he really hasn't been shooting the 3-ball all too well. I'm very curious as to where his 3-ball prop line comes out to be. If it's at like 2, I probably would be fine betting the over. But again, let's go ahead and move on into the next game. We got the Thunder versus the Knicks, 3-point spread, about 240 for the over and under. So some appealing games there. No one really injured in this game as well, so that should mean some good things for the Thunder. Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, they're both active tonight. And so let's go ahead and start out with OKC. Jalen Williams, 3.5 assists is really the best one that we are getting. And we're seeing, guys, a lot of the prop lines that we are getting right now are all pretty tight. As the day progresses, as PrizePicks adds in more data, the cheat sheet will update, and hopefully we'll get some bigger edges there. But yeah, really not getting any good EV bets, so it's kind of a tighter slate right now, but I do think there is a little bit something with OKC that we could like. Let's just talk through it. Now, Chet Holmgren on paper gets one of the more difficult matchups. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, with Mitchell Robinson being off the court. And so he is someone that when you look at his game log for points, rebounds, and assists at 29.5, he has been extremely consistent, just missing the over in 3 games. I'm kind of okay with that. This is kind of the game log that I like to see, maybe one more other over, but all in all, this tells me that the line that we are getting is correct. You give him, a couple more minutes in a game that's supposed to be high scoring. I like that. In a game that's supposed to be close, I kind of like the over there. Again, a better bet on probably one of the sports books, probably one of the spots we could go with there, like on DraftKings or FanDuel better, because again, we want to be chasing bets that give us the best % likelihood to hit. Right now, we're just not currently getting that many good lines like that. For Jalen Williams, let's take a peek at assists and rebounds. Rebounds has actually been bumped to 4. Assists is at 3.5. Again, this is a prop line that I typically like to see, guys. In every game where he is not getting over assists, he's gone to 3. So again, that gives us a pretty good likelihood of this at least being a good sweat. Again, in a little bit of a higher scoring game at about 240, chances of him getting another assist there I think are greater tonight, just simply because it's supposed to be a higher scoring game. The biggest issue that I have is really the minutes for him. Now, I do think a lot of his minutes have been spread out simply because of games blowing out and whatnot. This game against Minnesota, 26 minutes. If he gets 10 more minutes in that game, again, if the game stays close, maybe 8 more minutes if that game stays close, he probably does get the over assist there against the Lakers. 34 minutes in that game, only 3 assists. Didn't love that. We look at the game against the Clippers, again, a blowout, did have 7 assists, and he was part of the reason as to probably why that was a blowout. Memphis, again, a little bit of a blowout. 5 assists there. And so I do like the consistency that we have seen there. Again, probably more of a game stack, but all in all, not terrible. From there, probably don't need to be touching any of the other lines. So yeah, let's go on and move on into the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson was pretty clutch on Christmas Day against the Bucks, just going off against them. And really, that might be something we could look at again. What's interesting, though, is that all the best lines that we're getting are actually everyone else in this game. And let's point out, guys, again, another pretty good bet on Underdog here. Julius Randle for over 38.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So really, as it sits right now, it seems like a much better Underdog day in terms of value-based betting that we are getting compared to the average sportsbook line. So maybe that's something we're looking at. But right now, Julius Randle over points, rebounds, and assists. RJ Barrett over points, rebounds, and assists. And Isaiah Hartenstein for over points, rebounds, and assists. Let's take a look at all those. But I do want to start out with Jalen Brunson. Let's just see the lines that we are getting on him. So Jalen Brunson, points 26.5. We can see not the best chance for that one to hit. Points, rebounds, and assists 37.5. We'll take a peek. I don't know if we need to be going in on those. That kind of feels like we're forcing it just to force it, but he does get a good matchup. We know he's going to get around 37 minutes, and we know he has been shooting the basketball well. To me, the points, rebounds, and assists line that we were getting, probably not worthwhile, just for the simple point that if he's going to be shooting the ball 25 times again, we're probably just banking on those points to be there. So to me, yeah, the best bet that we were getting for Jalen Brunson would be probably 26.5 points. I would only be doing that in a game stack. Let's take a peek at these other two, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and also Isaiah Hartenstein. Let's start out with Julius Randle here. 39.5 is going to be his points, rebounds, and assist line on PrizePicks. On Underdog, it's a little bit different. So looking at it right now, guys, minutes, probably going to get around 36 to 37 minutes. We love to see that. On all the lines that we are getting on him probably are correct. I would say Underdog probably a little bit undervalued, but to me, it's weird. I look at OKC and I don't see them being a tough matchup for opposing bigs, and so that that 2 rating that we had on them for the matchup. I don't know if I actually agree with that. All in all, will that hinder production for Julius Randle? I don't know. Probably not. Again, this is a good bet on underdog. Honestly, probably a little bit too thin on prize picks. I would take a peek at Hartenstein. So he is someone that has been getting 30 plus minutes, which is awesome. If he continues to get that much run, basically if he stays out of foul trouble, I do think he has a great chance to get over his points, rebounds, and assists at 20.5. To me, that is a line that does seem to be a little bit too low. We can see the projection data likes that at 22.3. I do think that there is something there. From there, RJ Barrett, we know with RJ Barrett, very much shot dependent. If he's not hitting his shots, he's not going to get this over. If he is hitting the shots, he's going to get it over. It's as simple as that. And so it's funny with RJ Barrett, most of the time you're almost better off just doing his points, mostly because he's not adding a lot of assists. We'll get a couple of rebounds here and there. Has seen more rebounds recently than he had throughout the season average, but he's only playing about 30 minutes. So, it's a little bit of a prop that you don't feel comfortable really betting. Again, for RJ Barrett, I think we'd be better off just looking at the props, but Day doesn't really like it. So for me, it's probably Isaiah Hartenstein. And then that's really it. I mean, that I feel good about. Again, Julius Randle and underdog, I do like though. So let's go ahead and get into the last game tonight. We got the Cavs versus the Mavericks. Kind of a headache because we don't know who's going to be in or out in this game just yet. We know that Kyrie's out, and I'll pull that up. It's about a 4-point spread, 230 for the over and under. But yes, Kyrie's out, Josh Green's out, Luka game time decision. Tough to say whether or not he's going to play. Obviously, if he plays, we like that. For the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell game time decision. Okay, what do we do with that? And it's very difficult because if he plays, Craig Porter, someone that's been playing well, takes a hit. Another player that takes a hit slightly would be Max Strus. LeVert obviously would take a big hit if he's active. And same thing for Sam Merrill. If he's active, he would also take a big hit. So to me, this is going to be very difficult to predict what to do. I will say there is one player that I like in this game. It's going to be Jared Allen going against the Dallas Mavericks. So let's see if we're getting prop lines for him. And we are getting some lines for Cleveland. Obviously, okay, it's only going to be Donovan Mitchell. Again, if he's active, these will be his lines. His lines won't change. Whereas if he's inactive, everyone else's lines would change. Now, I do want to show you guys Jared Allen. Now, again, he gets a pretty good matchup tonight. He has been playing around 35 minutes or so when games stay close. This is a game that's projected to stay close. So if he's someone that we can get at like 15.5 points, 9 rebounds or so, I'm perfectly happy to bet that over. And points, rebounds, and assists, really, like this game is one that should stay close. Vegas thinks that's going to stay close. This is a good matchup. I fully expect him to get 33 or so minutes in this game and it'd be likely that he's going to crush. Then we'll go ahead and take a peek at Dallas. I would say Luka is in a good spot against Cleveland. He has been crushing. The minutes are heavy, but all in all, I really think we could do a weird little maybe night stack with Luka and also Jared Allen. And I bring up the reason why I like Luka is you look at the matchup, it should be more difficult on paper, but I just don't think it is with Garland and Mitchell off the court. I'm fine with it. And we can see Luka's been on a little bit of a tear right now. And so I would argue that the lines that we're getting them are too low, especially with Kyrie Irving off the court. And so looking at right now, guys, Luka with Kyrie off the court has the most minutes. That's not shocking, but averages 30.2 points, 8.6 rebounds, so already at about 40 here. That's not that high for points and rebounds, and then 10.1 assists, so that's like 40 or so. Now the thing is, he's getting more run than that. He's getting like 40 minutes or so with Kyrie off the court, so again, give a little bit more of a bump there. The projected minutes are going to be at 36. Again, it's tough to get to like 38 minutes as a projection. But all in all, I'm kind of fine riding the hot hand here. Again, I think the matchup becomes better for Luka if we get news that like Donovan Mitchell first say is out. Again, much better bet on underdog where, we're getting a 1 point difference. That might not seem like much, but it really does add up. And so, yeah, just looking at it from an underdog perspective, guys, I think we're getting some better lines there. So Julius Randle, I like at 38.5 on underdog for points, rebounds, and assists. That is a good line that we are getting there. And one thing we can do is there's this little pop-up here that you guys can click on. Okay, optional metrics. Click on prop line difference, prize picks minus underdog, and we can sort by that to see the biggest prop line differences that we are getting. And so that's just another way of kind of looking at it as well. And all right, so some lines updated literally on underdog as I was doing this video. So not as big of an edge there. Julius Randle got bumped to 39 now. Not as big of edge there. Luka, you can still run out at 56.5. Scotty Barnes, I still like at 38.5 on underdog. not as big of an edge. Still fine though. And so guys, just looking at it from an underdog perspective, we're really not getting that many great EV bets. Like Kyle Kuzma, if you want to toss in there for over 3.5 assists, by all means we can go for it, as well as OG Anunoby for under 4.5 rebounds. Those are two pretty good bets that we are getting right now for underdog. So I'll show you guys an underdog slip. So right now, I originally had Julius Randle in there at 38.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Obviously not as good. I'm still kind of okay with that. If you guys didn't want to use that, I definitely get it. Scotty Barnes, I'm still fine with that 38.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I fully expect him to have a really good game tonight against Washington. I'm fine betting that over. Minutes have been heavy. The production's been heavy. He's been going off lately. I'm perfectly fine with that. Melton for points and assists. That is the best one that we are getting, I think, for him. If you want to just do points, rebounds, and assists, I like that as well. OG, that's a good EV bet that we're getting for under 4.5 rebounds. And then Kyle Kuzma for over 3.5 assists. That's also a good one that we are getting. So, up to you guys really what you want to do there in terms of the prop bet that you can do. All in all, I kind of like all of them. And then real quickly, just showing you guys the EV bets that we are getting right now for PrizePicks a little bit better. We're getting some NHL props. We got Vincent for under assists. We got Steven Stamkos for over assists. Some pretty good ones there. Shots on goal under for Heinz. Okay. We got Garrett Green for over touchdowns. Again, okay. So looking at my favorite bets for underdog, this is what I'd be looking at. I do really like Melton for over points, rebounds, and assists. Again, I'm assuming that he's still going to get to 30 plus minutes. And if he does, I think there's a great chance that he gets over the points, rebounds, and assists. That's going to be with Embiid and Batum off the court. We like that. Kelly Oubre is someone that I do think will get around 30 minutes as well. He's a little bit shot dependent, but all in all, we have seen him be productive in this kind of similar role earlier on in the season. Maxey, I just doubt he's going to have that poor of a night shooting again. If he's going to be shooting the ball 20 plus times, I do really like that. Makes a couple threes, gets to the free throw line a little bit. If you look at his per 36 production with Embiid off the court, it's closer to 32 points on average. So I do think we're getting a decent line there. And then again, kind of wanted to get some action on college football. Not as good of an EV bet as some of the other hockey props that were out there. All in all, I'm mostly just doing that. So it's a little bit fun to watch some college football tonight. 1.5. Pass touchdowns. This one has about a 53.9% chance that it's almost 40 or 54% there. And then this one is kind of being favored as a push. All in all, I'm kind of okay with that tonight. And then Stamkos for over assists. We thought that was a good EV bet on the day. That's going to be all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the great coverage. If you guys want to access to the 9to5sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheets, they are available for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cash.